Happy Hump Day, folks. You know, it's interesting. I literally look like an element from today's subject matter. I literally look like a men's college basketball coach. Which, hey, guess what today is? Yeah, the last couple of years, I've actually been filling out a men's Division I basketball tournament bracket. I'm actually being very careful not to call it. Okay, well, here's the thing. Technically, I can say March Madness. I can't use it to promote anything for monetary gain. So, I'll be saying March Madness in this video, but for like the title, I can't put March Madness in the title. I think that's how it is. Like, I can say it, but I can't again, use it for monetary gain. So, got my bracket. Honestly, since I literally know not much at all about basketball in general, it took maybe about 10 minutes to fill this thing. In fact, it'll probably be pretty obvious who I have winning it all. But before I get to that, let's get to my low, my high, my kindness. Well, let's see. I would say that my low is I kind of slept in a little too much today, so I'm starting this video a lot later than I would like to. My high is I went to Rita's yesterday for the first day of spring. Because Rita's celebrating the first day of spring, and so I got my stuff. My free Italian ice was very good. I also tried this one flavor called Orange Splash, which is literally like a combination of like Florida Orange and Sunny D. Oh my god! Like, whew! I hope they bring that back for the end of the year, because that's definitely a flavor I'm saving for the winter. And actually, I had a couple acts of kindness. I took out the garbage for my parents. The garbage for my parents. I got my grandmother a cup of coffee with a bagel and cream cheese. And I emptied and filled the dishwasher for my parents. So I did several acts of kindness. Okay, now, without further ado, let's get to my March Madness bracket thing. Okay. So, here's the thing. Before I get into this, I have to say, as I was filling out, I completely forgot, like, there's those 8 teams that have to play in to get, like, the last 4 spots. Full disclosure, like, I didn't even see, like, what their names are. I pretty much saw whatever the higher seed was and logically just picked that. So, for example, actually, which division should I do first? I guess on the top left first. Let's see. Connecticut versus Stetson. Connecticut. Florida Atlantic versus Northwestern. Florida Atlantic. San Diego State versus UAB. San Diego State. Auburn versus Yale. Auburn. BYU versus Duquesne. BYU. Illinois versus Morehead State. Illinois. Washington State versus Drake. Washington. Iowa State versus San SD State. I got Iowa. Wait, are there 2 San Diego States? Oh, South Dakota State. Never mind. I think that's what it is. So, now I'll do bottom left hand. North Carolina versus what appears to be either Howe or Wag. Whatever, North Carolina. Mississippi State versus Michigan. Got Mississippi State. St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. St. Mary's. Alabama versus Charleston. Bama. Clemson versus New Mexico. Clemson. Baylor versus Colgate. Baylor. Dayton versus Nevada. Dayton. And Arizona versus Long Beach State. Arizona. Now I'll do top right. Houston versus Longwood. Houston. Nebraska versus Texas A&M, Nebraska. Wisconsin versus Duke. Wisconsin versus James Madison, Wisconsin. Duke versus Vermont, Duke. Texas Tech versus NC State, Texas Tech. Kentucky versus Oakland, Kentucky. Florida versus BSU or Colorado, looks like, Florida. Marquette versus West Kentucky, Marquette. Purdue versus MTST or Grand, whatever, I got Purdue. Utah State versus TCU, Utah State. Gonzaga versus McNeese State, I got the Zags. Kansas versus Sanford, Kansas. Oh, they're the names of the thing. So, yeah, so far, I've done East, I've done West, I've done South, and now I'm doing Midwest, okay? So, yeah, now I'm doing, yeah, I just did, yeah, right. So, I got, excuse me, where was I? Let's see, I got South Carolina versus Oregon, South Carolina. Creighton versus Akron, Creighton. Texas versus UVA/SCU, Texas. Tennessee versus St. Peter's, Tennessee. So those are, now we get to the second round, which would be 32 teams. So now we're moving to the East. Connecticut versus Florida Atlantic, I got Connecticut. San Diego State versus Auburn, I got Auburn. BYU versus Illinois, I got Illinois. Washington State versus Iowa, I got Iowa. Now the West. And now I got the West. Let's see, North Carolina versus Mississippi State, I got North Carolina. St. Mary's versus Alabama, I got Bama. Clemson versus Baylor, I got Baylor. And Dayton versus Arizona, I got Arizona. Now I'm moving south. Houston versus Nebraska, I got Houston. Wisconsin versus Duke, I got Duke. Texas Tech versus Kentucky, I got Kentucky. Florida versus Marquette, I got Marquette. Now I'm doing the Midwest. Purdue versus Utah State, I got Purdue. Gonzaga versus Kansas, I got Kansas. South Carolina versus Creighton, I got Creighton. And finally, Texas versus Tennessee, I got Tennessee. Now for the Sweet 16. Okay. Now we're doing the Sweet 16. Doing the East. Okay. Connecticut versus Auburn, I got Connecticut. Illinois versus Iowa, I got Iowa. Now for the West. North Carolina versus Bama, I got North Carolina. I got Baylor versus Arizona, I got Arizona. Now I'm doing the South. I'm doing that so you pay attention to which bracket I'm talking about in that moment. Just so you know. Okay, let's see. Houston versus Duke, I got Houston. Kentucky versus Marquette, I got Marquette. Now the Midwest. You got Purdue versus Kansas, you got Purdue. And Creighton versus Tennessee, I got Tennessee. Now we go to the Elite Eight. Starting from the East, I've got Connecticut versus Iowa, I've got Connecticut. Now representing the West, it's between North Carolina versus Arizona, and I got North Carolina. Representing the South, I got Houston versus Marquette, I got Houston. And finally, representing the Midwest, Purdue versus Tennessee, I got Purdue. Now from the Final Four, East versus West, and so East versus West, I've got Connecticut and North Carolina, with Connecticut that representing the East winning that game. Now for South versus Midwest, we got Houston versus Purdue, and I have Houston representing the South winning that game. Now, the national championship game will be between Connecticut and Houston, and I've got Connecticut winning it all. I mean, I saw that Connecticut has a record of 31-3. That's clearly the best record amongst everybody here. I mean, what's to stop them from winning 5 more games? So that's why I picked Connecticut. So let me bring this up close to you. See if you guys can read it. Okay? You can take a moment to pause if you want to write it down. Okay, now to the other side. Again, pause if you need it. And finally, the actual championship game. Yeah, for the record, sorry if North Carolina in the Final Four looks kind of... I meant to say North Carolina, but I started writing Arizona, so I had to correct it a little bit. But, yeah. You'll also notice I didn't really write any scores either because I can't predict scores at all. That's actually the one thing I never really understood about, like, gambling and betting. I mean, look, just about anyone can agree that those gambling sites like DraftKings and stuff have influenced the way that sports are played more than you realize. Like, seriously, like, why do you think Detroit lost to San Francisco in the NFC Championship game when they really could have won? Again, statistics. Gambling and statistics have ruined sports in general, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of, bets going on in Vegas right now for, who's going to win this whole thing. I'm sure that's what's going to happen. And a lot of those bets will probably be indicative of, again, I made my picks based on who had the better record, who was the higher seed. Because logically, the higher seed should go ahead. But, again, you don't know nowadays. You never know. I mean, it's possible that, if you couldn't tell by looking at my bracket, I had all 4 number 1 seeds making it to the Final Four. Again, I'm just going on logic. I know nothing about, obviously, I don't watch enough college basketball to look at the intangibles of every individual player on every individual team, much less the 64 teams that made it here. Oh, there might be 68, but again, the play-in tournament thing going on. So, yeah, I've got Connecticut winning it all. Here's the thing, I have Connecticut winning not just because of record and the fact they're also a 1 seed, but when you think about it, Connecticut, not really a college most people are expecting. I literally took one look at the bracket. I did the East bracket first. I'm like, wait, Connecticut is a 1 seed? Has anyone even been paying attention to Connecticut at all? You know what? No one's going to pay attention to them, I will, so I had to win the whole thing. That was literally part of my logic. Again, I'm sure a lot of people are going to make their brackets. This is just what I think is going to happen. Last couple of years I made a bracket. Obviously, I got it wrong, but I could know that. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose a 1 seed going to the second round. I don't think we will. In fact, here's the thing. I think we're going to get more upsets than what people are predicting, if anyone's predicting any upsets. That's why they're called upsets, because no one expects the lower seed to win. Listen, if you can't tell, I'm not really I'm not really as much into basketball as I am about football. I mean, I like the sport. I have great respect for the sport and the players who play the game and the coaches and everything. In fact, I'll just say right now, one of the best teachers I ever had in all of Horseheads was my 8th grade English teacher. And he coaches the Horseheads girls basketball team. I genuinely can tell you that he's the best basketball coach in this whole area. That's not me being biased. He really is that good. I'm just saying that. That's just me, though. Ooh. Actually, is there one of these for women I could do? Because here's the thing. I actually look forward to doing this video every year. It's a shame I can only do it once. I wish I could do it again. But, I get why. Having March. Here's what's even interesting. They call it March Madness. March is almost over right now. We're going to be halfway through April by the time we get to the, actually April 6th is when the, April 8th, okay, April 8th. That's when the national championship game is. Okay. So, not that far into April, but, it's March Madness. Obviously I wouldn't expect you to start on March 1st, but you could at least have started it earlier in March. I don't know, that's just me. So, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to look one more time to see. Again, pause if you need to write it down. Okay, there we go. I hope you all like this video. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm Gary. Hold me in this video. For all of you guys watching, enjoy today. Hopefully you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. I forgot the day of the week. And remember, everything is my talk channel. We're here to lend. Always be back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.